Hey everyone, Eric here. Thanks for tuning in. Interested in learning how to live mortgage free? Tired of living paycheck to paycheck? Well, boy, do I have a solution for you. Now, before I get into that, forgive me for being so absent over the past couple of months. To be honest with all of you, there have been some significant changes in my life.
Change? I don't have any change.
Now, on the one hand, I just purchased my first investment property in Las Vegas and became a landlord in the process. Now, the crazy part about all of this is I literally started my new job and I got a call from my real estate agent telling me that I was officially a homeowner on the same day. As you probably imagine, I went bananas after hearing the news and then frantically began calling all my friends and family, telling them that I was going to be moving to Las Vegas. Today, I'm going to be walking you through my experience with the home buying process, how I'm currently living mortgage free, hint, I'm house hacking, and what steps and sacrifices that you're going to have to make in your life in order to achieve this feat. But first, if you're new here and I provide you any value on this video, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel and also left a like on this video. It'll help me out a lot. Thank you. So, why Las Vegas? Well, I was in the process of transitioning to a new role, so I had about 2 weeks to do a little bit more research. Now, if you follow this channel at all, you'd know that I've been talking about buying my first investment property for probably the past year or so now. But there was a problem. Now, if you aren't living under a rock, then you would know that the housing market is absolutely bonkers right now with very low inventory and super high demand. Now, on top of all of that, add historically low interest rates to the mix, and you've got housing prices that are skyrocketing during the pandemic. So I was sitting down one night and I was pondering to myself, do I really want to spend $850,000 for a 2,000 square foot property in the Bay Area? I also anticipated a boost in compensation due to my new role, which made me fear for my life due to those California taxes. So I did the only logical thing that came to my mind, which was to Google the states that did not have income taxes. I had 9 options to choose from if I were to leave the Golden State. Now, those options were Alaska, Florida, Nevada, New Hampshire, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Washington, and Wyoming. Now, I looked at some of the pros and cons of moving to each of these states and I narrowed it down to 2, Texas and Nevada. Now, Austin has become a tech hub filled with Silicon Valley peeps that seemed pretty welcoming, so I considered that as a place to move. However, the property tax rates in Texas are pretty high. They're actually higher than in California at about 1.69%. It's also a longer flight to get back to the Bay Area, which I really do hope that I can move back to one day. It's about 3 hours. So ultimately, I chose Nevada due to its close proximity to California, as well as the lower property taxes being 0.53%. And Las Vegas just seemed like the better option considering that I cannot handle the snow, which is what you would deal with up north. Don't get me wrong, it's beautiful in Tahoe and I love snowboarding, but it just wasn't worth me living there. It also doesn't hurt to have visitors considering, it's Vegas, right? So once I realized that Las Vegas was potentially a good fit and I should probably be checking it out, I hit up my friend Chris, who was also looking for a house here. And shout out to Dash Cabahug for becoming a new homeowner as well. He let me stay for a few days and also introduced me to his real estate agent, which shout out to Redfin, man, for getting me so much money back on my closing costs. So I looked at about 6 properties and I narrowed it down to 2, the first being a new build that was going for about $520,000 and it was 2,900 square feet. Or an older property that was built in 2004 that was going for $495,000 and it was about 3,200 square feet. Ultimately, I decided to put an offer in for the older build just because I saw more value in having more space and more rooms to rent out to tenants. And I wanted to stop briefly and let you guys know that I did this process absolutely wrong. I should have gotten pre-approved first before looking at properties. Shout out to Graham Stephan for that one. However, because this was such a spontaneous trip, I just went and looked at properties and was hoping that I was going to get approved later. Now moving on, I ended up choosing a small local lender that gave me a 2.875% interest rate on my loan. Now, the only reason that I was able to qualify for this loan is because my credit score was close to 800 and I had been building my credit score over the past few years. So if you're interested in learning more about how to build your own credit, check out the video above. And if you're on a tight timeline for actually getting approved for a loan, I would recommend going with a smaller lender that is local to the area because they're gonna understand the market better than if you went with a giant corporation. So once I was pre-approved, that's when the real fun started. And also keep in mind, I was literally making an offer on this property within days of viewing it in person. So that's just how quick the turnaround was. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the seller did want $495,000 for the property. After doing my own research, I found that some comparable properties were being sold for between $460,000 to $475,000, but this was 4 months ago, and in this market, that changes a lot. So my agent and I have strategized on some of the ways that we can get this property below list price. Now, I'm gonna be honest with you, I got super lucky with this property because it had been on the market for 35 days, which is unheard of in today's climate. And not only that, but 2 previous deals had fallen through the cracks due to financing issues. I imagined that the seller was sick of going through this process for a 3rd time, and I was really just hoping that he would just take our offer. But to no one's surprise, the seller did come back with a counter offer of $480,000. So by just asking, I did already have a $15,000 discount from the get-go. Now at this point I was very close to accepting that counteroffer because the reality was that I was already emotionally invested in the property, I loved it, and I wanted to be able to call myself a homeowner already. And I also really did not want another buyer to come in at a higher price point because then I would be out of luck. So my dilemma was this: either I countered his counteroffer at $475,000 or I just bit the bullet and took it at a $480,000 price point. And my agent did warn me that the longer that I waited, the more likely it was that another buyer would come in and steal the property from me. So I can't believe I actually did this, but I did make the counteroffer at $475,000 and I waited. Now to give you some context, I was literally starting my new job on the very next day in a role I had never performed before, and I was waiting for the seller's response. So as you'd probably imagine, I didn't sleep a wink that night. Now when I woke up the next morning, I still hadn't received a response from the seller. So I spent the next 6 painfully long hours going through orientation and waiting for that response from the seller. At about 12 p.m. on that day, I got a call from my agent saying, "Congratulations, Eric, you're officially a homeowner." And it was at this point that I literally threw up my hands in the air while I was on Zoom and I said, "Yes!" Now in hindsight, the statement that my agent made was really exciting, but relatively misleading considering all the trials and tribulations that I was going to go through prior to actually owning the property. So after calling all of my friends and family and everybody in my immediate vicinity, telling them that I was moving to Vegas, I logically asked my agent, "Okay, what's next?" "Well," he said, "now you're gonna go through escrow." According to NerdWallet, the average close time on a property is between 30 to 45 days. I only had 28 days to get through that process because of the seller's timeline. So within this 28-day period, I had to get fully approved, which I didn't know there was a difference between full and pre-approval, which now I do. You learn the hard way. I also needed to submit any additional paperwork and negotiate additional terms with the seller. So that's why I ultimately decided to go with a local lender, because they understood the market better here, specifically in Las Vegas. And the last thing I wanted is for my financing to fall through, not be able to get approved prior to actually moving into the property. Now what followed was a series of action items such as submitting my W-2s, previous pay stubs, an earnest money deposit of $5,000, as well as an inhumane number of signatures. I also had 2 inspections done on the property, a termite inspection as well as a home inspection. Now generally speaking, the termite inspection is paid for by the seller, and then any other inspections that you want done on the property, that's gonna hit your wallet. So we found that there was a few smaller things wrong with the property, such as the dishwasher not working and little chips in the paint here and there, just nothing major. The only big ticket item was the roof, so that was going to be about $1,800 to fix. So once again, my agent and I, we strategized on some of the ways that we thought that we can get the seller to actually pay for these expenses. So ultimately, we decided to provide the seller with a laundry list of the things that were wrong with the property and circle out the big ticket items and ask for those things to be fixed. Now, instead of actually fixing the property, the seller decided to actually credit me $2,500 towards my closing costs in order to cover that. So as you probably imagined, I happily agreed to those terms, and I even convinced him to pay for a year-long home warranty just in case anything broke. And I also found out a few days later that the appraisal came in on my property at exactly the price point that I paid for it, $475,000. So in other words, I purchased this property at the price point that it was supposed to be valued at, so I think I did pretty well there. I also got $2,300 back from Redfin just for using the company, as well as $2,500 from the seller, again, just to cover the cost of all those things that were wrong with the property. I elected to pay 20% down, or $95,000, so that I could avoid property mortgage insurance and also get the lowest monthly mortgage possible. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how to save money or some tips and tricks in order to do so, feel free to check out the video above. Today, my mortgage payment is exactly $1,857.23 plus HOA and master plan fees of $104. So in total, out of my pocket, I had invested about $101,000 into this property. Now, this was absolutely gut-wrenching to check my Capital One account and see less than $10,000 to my name. And as you'd probably imagine, those expenses were only the beginning. So apparently, Las Vegas has some of the hardest and worst water in the country, so I had to invest $2,000 in order to buy a water softener so my skin doesn't fall off. I also had to fill this place up with furniture, so I went full on college mode and ended up buying a bunch of cheap furniture off of the Facebook Marketplace, as well as from IKEA. I probably spent $1,000 on everything, so that's my desk, my mattress, my bed frame, sofa, entertainment system, chairs, tables, etc. I also decided to convert my front lawn into something a little bit more desert friendly, so that's golden rocks, a boulder, shrubs, stuff like that. I also have a nice little windy path to my front door. It's gonna be interesting. Now that's gonna cost me about $1,200 after the government reimburses me. I guess they have federal programs in order to incentivize people to invest in desert friendly landscapes. And lastly, I'm going to be investing in solar panels in the near future. I'm checking out Tesla solar panels, which are awesome. And the government also reimburses you about 30% of those costs, plus my tenants are gonna help me pay for it, so I figured why not. So how do I live mortgage free? We finally got into the part of the video that you've probably been waiting for. As you've probably guessed by now, I rent out the rooms individually. I have 5 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. I live in one of them. Well, not the bathroom, the bedroom. And there's 4 additional rooms on top of that. Before listing my rooms for rent, I decided to join the Nevada Apartment Association for about $100, and I also elected to pay $100 to get access to all their leases and forms and all the addendums that you could possibly imagine. This gave me the ability to create leases effectively and efficiently for my tenants, and also protects me in the event that I were to get sued, God forbid. So once I had those lease agreements in order, I decided to list my property, or rather the rooms that were for rent, on a couple of different sites, including Roomies, Zumper, Zillow, etc. I priced these rooms between $600 to $850 depending on the size of the room as well as the proximity to the bathrooms and the views. I also required 1 to 2 months rent in the form of a security deposit. Now all utilities are included with the exception of electricity because it gets so freaking hot in Las Vegas. The last thing that I want is for my tenants to get a little bit overzealous with the thermostats. Now once a prospective tenant has submitted an inquiry, I met them in person, they looked at the property, and I felt like they were a good fit. At that point, what followed was a background and a credit check. I used Apply Connect to screen my tenants, which cost the tenant, I don't actually pay for anything, it cost them about $30 in order to do those background checks. Now, if you're interested in learning more about how to screen tenants, what questions to ask them, how to feel the room, feel free to comment below if you're interested. And it's also at this point that I wanted to briefly pause. If I provided you any value thus far, feel free to like this video. Thank you so much. It took me a little less than 2 months in order to fill those rooms. I went through 200 inquiries, interviewed about 20 people, and ultimately found the best fits. Those best fits are myself, obviously, my best friend Leo, which shout out to Leo for leaving the Bay Area and coming to live in Vegas with me, as well as 3 young ladies who are pretty much never home. They're super tidy and they're respectful of the space, so I don't think I could have gotten any luckier. I'm collecting $2,500 per month in rent plus the money for the electric bill. So if you were to calculate the monthly payments that I'm receiving from my tenants and then subtracted my utility payments as well as the actual mortgage payment, I'm netting between $350 to $400 per month just for using this property as both a primary residence as well as an investment property. I'm also saving roughly $700 per month just in income taxes from leaving California. Now all of this extra money that I'm saving just for leaving the Bay Area is going into my 401k, considering that my employer actually does provide a match on my investments into this retirement account. Now to conclude this video, I am super excited for the future at this point. Super grateful for this experience and thankful for my friends and family who have been very supportive throughout this entire process. Kudos to all of you. And thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for helping make this all possible. For those of you who don't know, I did spend the past 16 months living under their roof rent-free, only paying for car insurance and my cell phone bill. So without them, again, none of this would have been possible, so thank you guys. And to the rest of you, I wish you all success in your future endeavors, and I will definitely be posting more frequently now that I'm all situated. Cheers.